Hello, fellow creeps. Welcome back to another unsettling episode of Creepy with Coffee. I'm Kim, your storyteller, and tonight's tale takes place in the place that we all hope to avoid, the hospital. But what happens when the ward you're admitted to has more than just patients? What if something else checks in? Something dark, hungry, and not quite human. If you ever felt uneasy during a hospital stay, this story might explain why. So grab your coffee, turn down the lights, and listen closely. Now let's get on to today's story.
This is Creepy with Coffee.
Hospitals, a place often associated with eerie tales and mysterious happenings, a space filled with stories of life, death, and everything in between. For many, it's a place of healing, but for some, it's where darkness reveals itself. I never thought I'd experience it myself until, of course, I did. I've always avoided hospitals. I've only ever stepped inside one to visit my late father. But in 2006, the very place I feared became my temporary home after a motorcycle accident. I suffered a broken leg and a minor head injury, a wound I initially dismissed because I wasn't wearing a helmet at the time. A lesson I learned a little bit too late. I don't remember much about my first hospital stay. Apparently, due to the head injury, I had a small brain bleed, likely from my head hitting the road divider. Thank God he's alive. My memories were completely blank during my time in the ward, even though I was conscious. Friends and family who came to visit me said I seemed aware, but I didn't remember any of them. One friend later told me that I often talked to myself. When asked who I was speaking to, I apparently said I was chatting with this old man called Pak Su. But the creepy part is, the nurse claimed that old man, that Pak Su, had actually passed away a week earlier. Everybody in the ward knew Pak Su because Pak Su stayed there for quite a while, in the same ward I was admitted to. But then, I don't remember the conversation. I can't say for sure what really happened. About a month later, I returned for a checkup. My leg is still not 100%, so it still have not healed properly. The doctor then scheduled me for a second surgery to realign the fractured bone. This time, during the fasting month of Ramadan, I was placed in a second-class ward since I was still a student. This time, my memory was fully intact. The bleeding in my brain had cleared up, thank God. Though I sometimes felt dizzy when standing up too quickly. Now, let me tell you a bit about the ward. There were 6 beds in the ward, only 3 of which were occupied, which including my bed. My bed was next to a younger guy named Wan, who had broken his arm and some fingers from attempting a breakdance move. And the other bed that was occupied was across or opposite mine, and the bed next to Wan was supposed to be empty. Then came one night. That night, the ward was dimly lit. Only the nurse's station was glowing softly. I woke up for a moment and noticed someone sleeping in the bed next to Wan's, completely covered with a blanket from head to toe. I figured it was Wan's brother, who often came to accompany Wan. I didn't think much about it, so I went back to sleep. The next day, probably you guys have guessed it, I asked Wan where his brother was because there was nobody on that bed anymore. Wan looked at me and, a bit confused, said, "Huh? My brother? He didn't come last night. His wife was sick, so he stayed home." So, scratching my head, I thought to myself, who or what did I see in that bed? Story's not done, huh? A month passed. I had to return to the hospital for third surgery. Apparently, my leg still wouldn't heal. The fracture had separated too much to fuse naturally. This time, the doctors inserted metal rods into my leg to hold the bones in place. This round, I was placed in the same ward my father had once been in before he passed away. Staff said the ward was keras, or spiritually heavy, and had a reputation for frequent paranormal disturbances. Well, let me tell you about this ward. This ward, my bed faced an old man's bed across the aisle. When I first arrived, I saw that old man. He seemed to be sleeping. About 15 minutes later, a nurse came to draw my blood. I guess this is just a capo of a Malaysian. I casually asked what illness the old man had. The nurse turned to the old man and said, "Who? Him? Oh, he passed away earlier. We are waiting for the staff to transfer him to the mortuary," the nurse said nonchalantly. Chills ran down my spine. I mean, who would say that so casually? So I asked, "Why didn't you cover his face?" And the nurse said, "Yeah, I did. The sheet probably slipped off because of the wind." She then walked to the old man, pulled the sheet over his face once more, and continued taking my blood like nothing happened. Probably it is something that is quite normal to a nurse, I suppose. That moment, I can see his face, his gold face, slightly open mouth. It's something I'll never forget. Later that day, I was wheeled into an operating theatre. After the procedure, I returned to the ward around sunset, days from anesthesia. I remember briefly seeing my mother before falling back asleep. At 11 p.m., I woke up. This time, the ward was silent. Only the fan spinning overhead was making some noises. My mouth was dry, and the nurse helped me take a sip of water. I then tried to go back to sleep. That's when I heard it. The unmistakable, sickening sound of something gnawing, chewing. Tearing flesh. I slowly opened my eyes, and what I saw next froze me in terror. There was a black skeletal creature hunched over my freshly bandaged leg. Its eyes glowed red, and its skin looked like it had been charred in a fire. It clutched my leg with a claw-like fingers and was chewing into the wound with jagged, bloody teeth. Blood dripped from its mouth as it gorged on my flesh. I couldn't move. I couldn't scream. It felt like my lips were sealed shut. I can feel warm tears roll down my cheeks. My body trembled uncontrollably, and the creature looked up slowly and stared into my eyes. Its mouth opened unnaturally wide, dripping with thick blood, before it turned back to continue feeding on my leg, and everything went dark. Hey, if you're enjoying the story so far and you'd like to help to keep the coffee brewing, do consider supporting the channel by buying me a coffee, which is a small donation. A small tip helps keep the channel goes a long way. Link is in the description down below, and you can buy me a coffee for as low as just $1. Thank you very much for the support, and now let's continue with our story. The next morning, I woke up. I can feel agonizing pain in my right leg, and the bed sheets were soaked in blood. My wound dressing had come undone, and there were what looked like scratch marks around the incision. The doctor, however, insisted I must have been tossing and turning in my sleep, which caused the wound to reopen. But I don't sleep like that. Never have. I then told the nurse what happened. She looked startled, but with a full smile. Ayah boy, it's just a dream lah. Maybe your mind is playing tricks from the anesthesia, the nurse said. But something didn't feel right. My face was pale, probably from all the blood loss. Well, this is something that my mother told me. Then the hospital had to hook me up with 2 bags of blood for transfusion. That evening, when my mother came back, she recited verses and prayers as spiritual protection. And thankfully that night, the darkness didn't return. The ward felt calmer. On the 3rd day, I was finally discharged. My colour had returned and the wound was healing. As my mother dealt with the paperwork, the same nurse from before handed me some medication and whispered, "Boy, don't worry, he won't follow you home. There are plenty more patients here to entertain him." And the nurse giggled as she walked away. I'm not sure whether she's trying to make me feel better or it's a joke to her. Till today, my leg still bears the metal rod and a deep scar, right where the black creature bit me. I will never forget that night at the hospital. Well, if that story made the hairs on your neck stand up, you are not alone. Hospitals hold more than just memories. Sometimes they trap things that shouldn't be there. Once again, don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and comment your own spooky hospital experiences down below, or you can send it to my email. Well, fellow creeps, until next time, stay creepy, stay curious, and keep the lights on.